Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tanner's Favorite Things. I'm Tanner Knight, and today we have a very special unboxing. But first, I do want to say it's been a while since I've posted, and there's a very good reason for that. I've actually switched careers here very recently, and I plan to have a video that goes more in depth about that decision. But I no longer work from home. I go into an office, and I have much less time to record these days. So until I really get into the swing of things, I'm afraid the channel might suffer a little bit. But in any event, I have a lot more toys to show everybody because the nature of this job is a marketing position. So I've been fortunate enough to get on board with a company, Firefly Automatics, that is willing to invest in their marketing budget, and in doing so, they have allowed me to purchase some really cool things. So we'll be diving into those shortly, but first, let's go ahead and unbox this item, which is kind of in the same line. It's not a music item, but this is an item that will eventually help the channel and will also help me professionally. So let's go ahead and open it up. And you can see I went ahead and broke the seal on this just because it was a bear to get into. So I just opened it up, but I haven't actually dug around in here. So let's go ahead and see what's in this box. A Canon LP style battery. I can't imagine that this big box is just for this battery. So let's go ahead and see what's behind door number 2. A brand new charger, Canon charger for that LP battery. And finally, we have the Canon R6 camera body. This is one of Canon's newer models. If you're familiar with this channel, you'll know that I just invested in a smaller Canon camera, the M50, which is a smaller type of sensor and generally more of a vlogger enthusiast style camera, whereas the R6 is the second highest option that you can get in the mirrorless line, right under the R5, which is MSRP, I think $3,800. So that's quite a chunk of change. This one is also not cheap, but I did get a pretty good deal on it. And more importantly, it has all the features that I need and want in a camera. So let's go ahead and take a look. On the bottom, we have the spot for the LP style battery, and looks like a micro, I think it's micro HDMI input there. We have 2 SD card slots, which was pretty important for me. The M50 just has one single card slot. You're actually seeing footage shot on the M50, by the way, so it'll be interesting to see what they look like side by side. But that's our SD card compartment. On this side, we have this is a mini HDMI out plus a USB. So what was this one on the bottom here? I'm not exactly sure what this port is. We'll have to look at schematic and see. But HDMI and USB here. This is the USB Type-C. And then we have what appears to be a microphone jack. So I would say that's the remote, actually. So that's for the Canon remote. And then we have our 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter jacks for headphones and microphone. So that's this side of the camera. On top, we have dials, which I love. I love the dial style of actuation here, and all of this is dials, so that's cool. We also have a dial here for, I think it's a quick exposure wheel, and a couple other buttons and toggles here. On the back, we have a toggle wheel. This is, I don't think it's a 360-degree wheel, but I think it's got 4 directions plus up and down. And then we have a rate and a menu button, our preview button and delete button, and the familiar Canon wheel if you're familiar with any of their DSLRs, and some of these other buttons are very familiar, and the overall feel is very familiar. In fact, it feels like a Canon camera, it looks like a Canon camera, and most of all, it should shoot like a Canon camera. So let's go ahead and get a lens on this and take a look at what it looks like with that. Alright, I also picked up a new lens in anticipation of this RF mount camera, and if you're not familiar with all of the different mounts on the Canon system, I know it can be quite confusing, but with the RF style, that's the new mirrorless style of mount, and they're just now starting to populate a bunch of new lenses for it. Our previous style was the EF style of mount, which is before the times of all this digital autofocus and stuff. Just to make matters worse, Canon uses the EF M flavor of mount on the M50. So this lens is not compatible with the M50. This mount is entirely different. But let's go ahead and put this together and take a look. So before that, let's just take a look. You can see that our shutter is down, so you can't see the mirror. But here's a good look at the internal of the camera body. Let's go ahead and mount that lens. All right, so a little stubby guy, but this is a Canon Nifty 50 1.8 STM style lens. So 50 millimeter. Let's go ahead and switch over to this camera and see what our image looks like. Before we do that, we'll have to get a baseline for the M50, so hold for one moment. All right, so you are seeing me in the M50 with a 50 millimeter lens. I tried to keep it as similar a comparison as possible, but really these are two different platforms, two different styles of camera. So I hope to see a marked improvement in the video quality when switching to the Canon R6. But just for some reference, let's do a little close-up. Oh, this thing is filthy, but you know, we do what we do with the things that we have. All right, so I think that's good enough. Let's go ahead and switch to the Canon R6. All right, here we are back with the Canon R6. I did some very little setup, just the date and time on this camera, and pretty much left it as is for all other setting and hit record. So right off the bat, it does look like it's a much nicer quality image. Otherwise, here is autofocus on the guitar. Let me take this off here. Cool. So I just wanted to do an unboxing and quick comparison between these two cameras. Just for reference, here's the M50 that I was using. It's a much smaller camera, you can see, and it has a lot less functions, but it's a really nice camera. I think it takes really great shots and does very adequate video. So we'll have to see the comparison between the two, and we'll be seeing a lot more shot on this camera in the very near future. So thanks again for watching. Hopefully you like this content. If you do, feel free to like and subscribe. Otherwise, hope to see you on the next one.